Hello everyone, now let's talk about form components. We have a few live components for forms and I'd like to showcase all of the features of these components in this lesson. So the first one is form memory and it's pretty simple. So you can store the data from the forms that you use in local storage. There's nothing really to do with this component. You can use it straight away and you can just add fields, as many as you want, and all of those fields will be automatically stored in the local storage. So after someone refreshes the page, the data will be here. So this is pretty useful when someone just fills in the form and there's a long form and maybe the website crashes or the browser crashes or he wants to fill in the form later on. He can easily close the website or even the browser and go back later or in a few days, and every data he filled in will be in place. It's pretty useful in checkouts. It's pretty useful in long forms. You'd like to do it. And the whole magic happens if you go to settings in this LC form memory container. So this container has this attribute data sysflow store. You can give any value in here. This will store the data as form1. Okay, so now when I publish and preview this site and I go to form memory and I'll try to just fill in the data and refresh the page, I'm going to command R refresh. You'll see that the data is here, and in fact if you inspect the page and you check out the application, and here you have local storage, here you have this form1 key which stores all the data, so email and name. If you delete that, so I can delete this key and refresh. Let's go to form memory. It's empty. But once I add this data, you'll see that the data appears in here as form1. Now I can close the browser. I can open the new tab, and this will still be here. Okay, the next one is form hidden field. This is pretty useful if you want to pass some additional data and maybe pass some information about the partner who sends someone to your website. So someone sends people to your website and you are using this ref parameter. So in the URL, you'd have to use the ref parameter. By default, it's ref, but you can change it in the component. And you can say system flow. Now, once I refresh this website and I go to this form hidden field, I can fill in the form with the data, my data here, and let me show you the network tab. Now let's clear this and submit this form. Once I submit it, you can see that the data sent also contains this field ref and the name is system flow. So that's especially useful if you run referrals and you have many partners, and those partners can use this ref at the end of the URL and put their name in there, and then it will be passed in, let's say, your registration form or maybe in the checkout even, so that people can't really see that except the URL. It's in the URL, of course, but then it will be sent with the form and you can act upon this referral and maybe pay out the provision, or you can use it for your internal tracking. If you have an email campaign and you want to track this email campaign in terms of how many people actually registered from this email, you can also pass it as ref, or you can change it easily, because if you go to this component, here is the form element, and on the form element you have this custom attribute and it says value ref. You can change it to whatever you want, and then this will be the parameter that you'll have to pass in order to just fill and pass this data from the form. Then you have form prefill, and that's pretty similar to the previous one. However, in this one, there is a hidden field, and there is one hidden field that user can't see. And in the prefill, you'll have as many fields as you want, and those will be input fields that are pre-filled for the user. So let's say you pass some information that user might not know or might forget. Let's say it's a refund form and you want to pass the number of the invoice or something like that. You can do it from email, and then you can pre-fill some of the fields that would be visible for the user. How it works? Well, easily you can select any of the inputs here, and you can add as many inputs as you want. Basically, you will fill those inputs with the ID passed as parameter. So you have the ID name, here we have job, and also for the email address, we have ID for this field email. It means that I can go to my page and I can, now if I scroll to this form prefill, as you can see, it's empty, but once I add a parameter, and that would be name Greg, you'll see that in the prefill, I have this name prefilled. And if I want to use job, I'm going to pass and then job, because the first parameter is always question mark. And then if you have multiple parameters, you just connect them with and instead of question mark. So you have job equals CEO, and also we have email equals, and I can pass my email. Okay. Now let's go to form prefill, and you can see all the data is prefilled. I can submit it. So from the user experience perspective, this is really useful, especially on mobile when you have to fill in the form. Even if you fill an email address for someone, this helps a lot and save few seconds. And especially as the form is editable, he can go ahead and edit the data if it's incorrect. And also think of this data, if this prefills like something that user might not recall from the past, for example, the number of the order or something like that. You can just prefill if you have this data, and you can pass them as a parameter. So that's all about live components and forms, but we'll add new features to the forms as we go. So just check them out and let us know whatever else you need in terms of forms and live components. Thanks a lot, and see you in the next lesson.